The union all transform is probably one of the most easy transforms to get. It's simple to configure, and here's what it does. It combines multiple inputs into a single output. So if you think you can pretty much relate many of these transforms back to T-SQL. If you think about a union or union all in T-SQL, you're going to have two different sets of data, or two different queries, and you're trying to combine them into one single output. So it's much the same as it would be in T-SQL. One great thing also is that it can correct minor metadata issues. So, for instance, if you think you have two columns that have different lengths, one's 20 characters long and one's 50, it'll default to the higher one. So it'll bring back the 50 character column, which is what you want, because it could be an issue when there could be some truncation if otherwise. Also, you'll see in the last bullet here we have that it can be used as a temporary destination, just like we did in the last lesson. With the row count, the union all can also be used as a temporary destination, which we've actually demoed in lesson 14. Alright, so in this lesson we're going to be using the union all transform to combine two sales amounts. The sales amounts from the fact internet sales table and the sales amounts from the fact reseller sales table from the AdventureWorks database. So let's begin by going ahead and creating a new package called Lesson22. And we're going to do that by right-clicking on SSIS Packages and say New SSIS Package. And let's rename it Lesson22. Once you do that, it'll pop up the confirmation box. Are you sure you want to rename this? And do you want to rename the object as well? Remember, always say yes to this. Okay, so let's think about what we're doing here. We're combining data using the union all transform, and if you think about that in your head, that means obviously we need to be using the data flow. It's all within the data flow task. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a trick that you can do to create a data flow besides just using the toolbox and dragging one over. You could also click on your data flow tab here, and it's telling you that there's no data flow task that's in your package so far, and if you just click here, it'll add a new one. So now if you go back to the control flow, you have one right there. So that's just another way of doing it. It's nothing too fancy, but it's another option there. Let's go ahead and rename our data flow DF Union All Sales. Alright, and once you've renamed it, go ahead and get into your data flow by double clicking on it. And then let's go ahead and create a connection manager to the AdventureWorks DW database. We're using the data warehouse version of the AdventureWorks database. Most of the examples so far we've used the regular AdventureWorks 2008 database. This time, like I said, we're using the DW version, which is the data warehouse. You'll see I already have in my presets the regular AdventureWorks 2008, so we need to create a new, because we're looking for the DW. And like if you don't remember how to set up connection managers, you can either select from the drop-down box your server name, or you can type in localhost in this instance, because you should be just using this on your local machine here. And Devon PC is my machine. And then you'll select the database from the drop-down list, which is AdventureWorks DW 2008 this time. Always test your connection. We're looking good. So click OK on that, and then OK again. And then one last time, and that will create our connection manager to AdventureWorks DW 2008. And then rename to just have AdventureWorks DW 2008. Always do that. Remember, you could be deploying this package on multiple servers, so if you have the server name in front of the connection, it might not make too much sense once it's deployed to a different server. Okay, so now let's go ahead and bring over some OLEDB sources. And remember how we do that? We go to our toolbox and drag over OLEDB source. And remember, we're using the union all transform to combine two data sets here. So we're actually going to need two OLEDB sources. And let's rename them names according to what they are. We'll name the first one reseller sales, and the second internet sales. Remember, we're using the union all transform in this example to join the sales from both the internet sales and the reseller sales. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with our reseller sales here. And we're going to end up using the SQL command for the data access mode. So change it, we're not using a table, we're just going to use the SQL command. And then you'll have this in your book. The fact reseller sales, we only want the product key and the sales amount. So these are the two columns we want to bring back. Again, if you want to check out the columns you're bringing back, you can check it out there. If you want to preview the data you have in your SQL command, you can hit preview here. Okay, so we're good on this one. Go ahead and click OK. And then we're going to move on to the fact internet sales. So we're going to do the same idea. Instead of using a table or a view, we're going to do SQL command. And this time we're going to select the same columns back, but from the fact internet sales. So the difference there is the table name. Again, you can check out the columns, you can preview the data again. Alright, looks like we have this one set. Go ahead and click OK. And remember, I told you the union all is one of the simplest transforms to get. So we'll show you here exactly how simple it is. Go ahead and drag over a union all. And then we're going to connect with the green arrows. And you know what? We're actually done. If you open it, it's already joined the table, the columns appropriately. The reason it did it appropriately this time was because the column names were the same. But if they weren't the same, you would be able to switch them here. And then it gives also the output column name that maybe I want product key to be named something different. This isn't in the example in the book, but let's just say I want to call it product. So you can have the output different than what the two inputs are. So the union all input 1 is coming from whichever green arrow I connected first. So in this case, I believe I connected reseller sales first. And the union all input 2 should be the opposite, whatever I connected second. Alright, so this is, like I said, this is a pretty simple thing to configure. Some problems could happen when if you add new columns, or if you make any changes before this union all. You're probably going to have to go back in and reset the column mappings here. Or what sometimes might be the easier thing to do is just delete it altogether, because you saw how simple it configured. Sometimes it'll be simpler just to delete it and reconnect, instead of having to dig in here and switch which columns it's using. That might be the best option. Okay, so now the next step was going to be to bring over a flat file destination, and we're going to connect that right after our union all. So go ahead and connect that, and double click on our flat file destination, and we're going to create a new connection manager for it by selecting new. You'll see we don't have any in our drop down box because we haven't created any connection managers for flat files yet. So go ahead and hit new. We do want it to be comma delimited, so we'll leave it at delimited setting here. Alright, now that we have our editor up here for our flat file connection manager, we're going to browse to the location we want the file to go to. In this case, it's in the right place right now. It's in C Projects SSIS Personal Trainer, and we're going to call this Sales Export. .txt. Okay, and that's going to set our folder with the file name for it here. Remember, we do want this delimited, and we want the first column or the first row to be the column names. You've dealt with the flat file connection managers before, but you can explore what the columns are going to be named here, and that's it. So go ahead and click OK, and then we're going to want to check out our mappings as well. So it's mapping the product key to the product key and the sales amount to the sales amount, which is correct. Remember, this destination, these columns we just created, so it's going to be correct there. And we're going to leave it to overwrite the data in the file, so we can run this as many times as we want, and then it's going to overwrite it each time. So we're good here. Let's click OK. Pretty simple, like I said. It's one of the most simple transforms to work with. If you remember, I changed the name of the product key to product before, but I deleted the transform, so it went back to product key. So let's go ahead and run it. Do Solution Explorer, right click on the package and hit Execute Package. And after just a few seconds here, we'll have it go from from yellow to green, and it's combining 60,000 some odd rows and another 60,000 some odd rows with a union all, and it's combining it into the flat file destination here to give us 121,000 rows. So that's it. Let's go ahead and review what we learned in this lesson. So what did we learn in this lesson? We learned that the union all transform is used to combine multiple inputs or multiple sources into a single output. So in the lesson that we did, we had fact internet sales and fact reseller sales, and we wanted to combine the sales into a single table, or in this case, a single flat file. So we used the union all transform with the two sources to combine them and then send them to the destination. We also learned, which we didn't have to deal with in our example, that the union all transform can correct minor metadata issues, which means, like we said in the beginning, if you have one source that has a data type that has a character length of 20, and the other source has a character length of 50, it will default to using the higher character length. That way, there's no truncation with the second one, that's the 50 length. We can also use the union all transform as a temporary destination, which we didn't show in this lesson, but we actually showed in lesson 14 when we were talking about sources. We sent all of them to a union all as a temporary destination.